My name is Ethan. Because of a nightmare, I realized I seemed to be the abused male lead in a darkly humorous classic betrayal story. The morning sunlight filtered through the slats of the blinds, casting mottled light and shadow on the hardwood floor. The air was filled with the rich aroma of freshly brewed, pour-over coffee and the sizzle of bacon in the skillet. I was intently flipping an egg, trying to make a perfect soft yolk. A pair of soft arms wrapped around my waist from behind. A familiar scent of hair, Sophia's favorite white tea shampoo, wafted into my nose. What's Chef Ethan making delicious today? Her voice had the lazy tone of someone just awake. Her cheek pressed against my back as she nuzzled gently. I turned off the heat and used the spatula to lift the perfect soft-boiled eggs onto a plate. Your favorite bacon and fried eggs and toast. I forced a smile, turned and pinched her cheek. Go wash up, or I'll eat it all. At once, dear husband. Sophia tipped on her toes, pecked my lips, then skipped happily toward the bathroom. Watching her joyful back, the smile on my face gradually froze and finally fell away. A fine, sharp ache pricked at my chest. Everything was as warm and beautiful as always. Except for me. Just last night, I had an incredibly vivid nightmare. I dreamed that our life was nothing but a cliched betrayal novel. I, Ethan, was the useless male lead who got cheated on. And the woman I loved, Sophia, was the heroine who would betray me for some pretty boy at any cost. The beginning of the dream was in our warm home. No, it was no longer our home. The wall art we'd picked out ourselves was gone, replaced by a modern piece I didn't recognize, cold and harsh to the eye. Sophia was sitting on the sofa beneath that painting. She wore loungewear, her makeup immaculate, but the look she gave me was as cold as ice. Beside her sat a boy who at first glance seemed bright and cheerful, but I could see the smugness and mockery in his eyes at once. His name was Liam. I don't even know how that name entered my mind, but I just knew it. It was a style Sophia had once scorned for being too showy. Now it rested on a young man's hand. The man called Liam, in a victor's posture, was peeling an apple and feeding it to Sophia by hand. Sophia naturally opened her mouth and accepted his offering. She didn't so much as glance at me, as if I were just an intrusive stranger blocking the doorway. I heard my own voice demand, dry and hoarse, "Sophia, why is he in our home?" She finally looked up at me, a trace of impatience in her eyes. "Ethan, can you be a bit more mature? Liam came here on his own to make a living. It wasn't easy, so I let him come live with us." Liam smiled, the grin full of provocation. Then his expression suddenly softened, taking on a pitiful look. "Sophia, you don't have to be like this. My coming here is indeed an imposition. I don't want your relationship with brother Ethan to be affected because of me." He stood up, walked over to me, and spoke in a moderate voice. "Brother Ethan, I'm sorry. It's my fault for causing the misunderstanding. Sophia is just worried that it's unsafe for me to live alone. Don't read too much into it. I'll leave right now." Though he said that, it was as if his feet had taken root and he didn't move an inch. Instead, Sophia rose after hearing him and, as if protecting a little chick, put him behind her. "Liam, don't mind him. I bought this house. He's just living off me and doesn't even deserve to chase me out." Standing behind Sophia, Liam's smile grew more obvious, full of silent mockery. My blood rushed to my head in an instant. "Ethan, don't be crazy. Acting like this only makes me feel ashamed. There's no love between us anymore. Can't you feel that?" She pulled a document out from under the coffee table and threw it in front of me. "A divorce agreement. I had the lawyer draw it up. Sign it, then get out immediately. I don't want to see a vindictive man like you again." My heart felt as if an invisible hand had squeezed it, aching so I couldn't breathe. "Don't forget, you were the one who pursued me in the first place. Now I'm the one making you look bad? Huh?" I sneered, picked up the pen, signed it, and turned to leave. The moment I left the house, the pain in my chest made it almost impossible to breathe. Then I suddenly sat up in bed, drenched in cold sweat. My heart pounded endlessly, and I gasped for air as if I had just struggled up from deep water. Moonlight streamed bright outside the window, and the bedroom was so quiet I could only hear my own heartbeat. I turned my head and looked at Sophia beside me. She was sleeping deeply, her long eyelashes casting a small shadow on her face. Her sleeping expression was calm and beautiful, very cute. The moonlight softly outlined her profile, the same look I've never tired of seeing in 8 years. From the girl in a white dress on the university campus to the businesswoman now heading a publicly listed company, Taylor Group. She has always been the Sophia who would be delighted for a long time over a commonly used foreign programming tool I wrote, and who would, awkwardly but earnestly, cook a pot of Western-style soup for me when I was sick. She stood by me through the hard days of starting a business and was even more excited than I was when I won my first big project and its dollar prize. She comes from a well-off family, a true heiress of a wealthy house. When she chose to marry me, an ordinary-born software engineer, I don't know how many people were astonished. Everyone said Ethan, must have saved the world in a past life. I feel the same. How else could I have been so lucky to meet such a wonderful girl? How could a Sophia like that possibly betray me for an intern who appeared out of nowhere? It's impossible. Absolutely impossible. I kept telling myself over and over that it was nothing but an absurd dream. Yet every detail in that dream, the smug look on Liam's face, the ice-cold glare in Sophia's eyes, was as vivid as if I had lived it. The pain and humiliation of being betrayed by the person I loved most and having everything taken from me still sat heavy on my chest, refusing to go away. Just like in those betrayal stories, I'm the quintessential useless tool, the male lead whose only purpose is to be betrayed, to trigger the protagonist's aura, either turning dark for revenge or making a comeback to slap everyone in the face. And Sophia is that muddled female lead, blinded by lard, mistaking a worthless thing for a pearl. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, trying to drive these absurd thoughts out of my head. Ethan. Sophia rolled over and opened her eyes groggily. She reached out and placed her warm, sleepy palm on my forehead. What's wrong? Why are you sweating so much? My heart tightened, my body stiffening instantly. It's nothing, just a nightmare. I forced a smile more pathetic than tears. She immediately sat up, moving closer, her eyes full of worry. Is work stressing you out too much? How about we go to Binhu City this weekend? Seeing her concerned gaze and hearing her gentle voice, my feelings were a tangled mess. Reason and emotion waged a frantic battle in my mind. On one side was the real love of 8 years of shared hardship. On the other was that terrifyingly real, prophetic nightmare. It's really nothing, just a silly dream. I reached out and pulled her into my arms, resting my chin on the top of her head. You keep sleeping, it's still dark. Then you hurry up and lie down too. She nuzzled against my chest, found a comfortable position, planted a light kiss on my cheek, and closed her eyes again. I held her soft body, but sleep would not come. That nightmare had become a secret in my heart I no longer wanted to speak of. A few days passed, and that absurd nightmare gradually faded in my mind. Whenever the night was deep and quiet, I would deliberately recall the bits and pieces of how I met Sophia, as if trying to encourage myself. The first time I saw her in college, she stood under the oak on campus in a white dress, sunlight filtering through the leaves onto her shoulders. I was just an ordinary computer science student then, while she was already a prominent figure in the student council. People from 2 different worlds. She was the one who spoke to me first. Classmate, can you help me fix my computer? She was holding a laptop, wearing that smile that made it impossible to refuse. While I was fixing the computer, she sat beside me, occasionally asking technical questions. Those questions seem naive now, but she asked them earnestly and listened intently. After checking for a long time, I realized her computer wasn't broken at all. The plug simply wasn't plugged in properly. Why did you lie to me? I asked her. Because I want to get to know you. She replied matter-of-factly, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. From then on, she became the whole color of my life. During our 4 years at university, she kept me company through late nights and coding sessions, and I kept her company through late nights spent on club activities. After graduation, she took over the family business, and I worked as a programmer at an internet company. two seemingly parallel life paths intertwined because of love. On our wedding day, she wore a wedding dress and said to me, "Ethan, we'll grow old together." How could that kind of Sophia possibly betray me? It was just a dream, an absurd, utterly ridiculous dream. I comforted myself like that, until tonight. At dinner, Sophia seemed unusually excited, her eyes shining with a light I hadn't seen in a long time. While eating the Western-style roasted ribs I had made, she chattered nonstop about things at the company. You know, a new intern started today, a computer science major, an absolute prodigy. She put down her chopsticks and waved her hand around as she spoke. Young, but incredibly capable. In just one morning, he helped me solve a project proposal problem that had been bothering me for a long time. I kept my head down and ate, trying to seem nonchalant. Oh, really? And he's also very handsome, that clean kind of handsome like the boy next door. Sophia's eyes were even more excited. He's also very good with words, very polite. He called me Sophia, haha. My heart clenched sharply. This was the moment in the dream when she and I first burst into an argument over Liam. What's his name? I tried to make my voice sound calm. Sophia laughed even more happily. His name is Liam. He's such a little genius. Liam. Those two letters struck like a thunderclap, instantly shattering every defense in my heart. My blood seemed to freeze in that instant, and every detail from that nightmare surged up vividly. Young and handsome Liam, the light in Sophia's eyes, and her final indifferent gaze. No, impossible. It's just a coincidence, just the coincidence of a name. But why? Why does her eye light up like that when she mentions him? Really? I heard my own voice, carrying a hint of the bitterness I was trying so hard to suppress. All the geniuses want to be your interns. As soon as I said it, I immediately regretted it. This isn't my style. I've never been one to make snide remarks. But the words slipped out, almost beyond my control. Worse, the line matched the scene from my dream exactly. My heart began to race wildly, and cold sweat seeped from my palms. It's over. The plot has started. In that nightmare, it all started at this moment. After I said that bitter remark, Sophia would freeze. Then her expression would go cold as she accused me of being petty and asked why I didn't trust her. Then we'd erupt into an unprecedented fight. She would slam the door and go pour her heart out to Liam. My heart suddenly sank into an ice pit. I stared at Sophia, feeling that in the next second I would lose her forever. But Sophia's reaction after freezing completely exceeded my expectations. She didn't get angry. She was just stunned for a moment, then put down her chopsticks and looked at me with amusement. The next second, she actually leaned over, reached out, and pinched my cheek. Oh, which vat of jealousy did our Ethan, the senior programmer, drink from? So sour, she said with a smile, her voice full of fondness and teasing. Her fingers were warm, carrying a faint scent of hand cream. Her smile was still so familiar, her eyes full of love for me. I was completely stunned. This wasn't the plot from the dream. In the dream, Sophia should have been angry, should have put on a cold face, should have questioned why I didn't trust her. But the real-life Sophia was smiling, affectionately pinching my cheek and dispelling my unease in her usual way. I'm not jealous. I stammered, my cheeks burning in her hand. Not jealous? She tilted her head, a mischievous glint in her eyes. Then why do your words sound so sour? I thought my little jar of vinegar had been knocked over. When she spoke like that, it was just like when we first started dating. Back then, she always teased me like this too, called me a closed-off person, but she loved watching me flush. I was just speaking offhand. I avoided her gaze, fear and confusion twisting together in my chest, but I couldn't help adding, I can handle computer-related tech too. Why not come to me? Sophia immediately laughed, even more cockily, stood up decisively, walked over to me, then squeezed into my arms like a cat and sat directly on my thigh. Her arms wrapped around my neck, her brows curved, her nose nearly touching mine. You mean to have the founder and chief engineer of the IT industry's rising tech company Stellar Tech come and solve a project proposal that even an intern at our Taylor Group could handle? Her voice carried a hint of exaggerated astonishment. Since when did my Taylor group become so prestigious? My face flushed bright red. I didn't mean that. I couldn't finish because Sophia's soft lips covered my mouth. This was our little habit, a confirmation of our love for each other and a comfort for any unease. A warm current rose in my chest, but deeper confusion remained. The plot had shifted. What did that mean? The scene in the dream hadn't played out, but her admiration for Liam was real. She just called him a genius. I couldn't have mistaken the light in her eyes. That light was admiration, excitement, the joy of encountering something interesting. I knew that admiration truly existed. That kept my unease alive, like a thorn deeply stuck in my heart. Sophia. I called her name. She looked up at me. Do you think there will be problems in our relationship? I asked the deepest worry in my heart. Sophia cupped my face and looked at me seriously. Ethan, what's wrong? You've been acting strange lately. Is it too much work pressure? I wanted to tell her about that dream, to voice all the fears in my heart. But the words stuck in my throat, and I swallowed them back. Say that I had a dream, that I dreamed you betrayed me. So now I'm watching your every move like a lunatic? That would be absurd. It's nothing. Maybe it's really just work stress. I forced a smile and said. Sophia didn't press further. She just held me tighter. Ethan, no matter what happens, we need to talk things through, okay? Don't stew over it by yourself. Her embrace was warm, carrying the scent I knew best and was most intoxicated by. Okay. I nodded, but the gloom in my heart hadn't fully lifted. The plot had veered, but Liam had already appeared. Would that dream come true? Over the next few days, I found myself becoming a completely different person. Despite having several important projects at hand that needed my attention, I couldn't concentrate. Whenever I sat at my computer, the name Liam would involuntarily surface in my mind. I began doing things I would never have done before. For example, I tracked down a technical lead at Taylor Group named Michael. Michael was a senior from my university days and now heads the IT department at Sophia. Under the pretext of a technical exchange, I asked him for coffee. Any new projects on Ms. Taylor's side lately? I tried to make my tone sound casual. Michael put down his coffee cup, a sly look flashing in his eyes. Mr. Johnson, are you here because you don't trust your wife's work? Just asking, I said, a little embarrassed. But there's actually a pretty impressive intern named Liam. Michael's expression grew complicated. That kid really has skills, technically strong, and he really knows how to work people. My heart tightened. What do you mean by knows how to work people? Michael lowered his voice. You know Ms. Taylor never adds sugar to her coffee, right? That kid remembered it the next day. Every morning he would bring Ms. Taylor a cup of pour-over coffee with no sugar and claim it was a special brewing technique he learned while working part-time at a coffee shop. My blood seemed to congeal. This detail matched the scene in the dream exactly. And this kid has a really good sense of things, Michael continued. Yesterday, Ms. Taylor was stuck in the conference room over a technical plan, and he just happened to pass by, then proposed a very creative solution. Ms. Taylor immediately praised him as a genius. Happened to pass by. I forced myself to control the tremor in my voice. Yeah, just that coincidental. Michael shook his head. To be honest, us old-timers feel a bit uneasy watching it. How can an intern be given so much responsibility? My hand holding the coffee cup began to tremble. Every detail matched the plot from my dream exactly. Every move Liam made seemed to follow some script. Mr. Johnson, are you okay? You look a little pale, Michael asked with concern. I'm fine, maybe just under a lot of work pressure lately. I forced a smile. That night, Sophia came home an hour later than usual. As soon as she walked in, she excitedly began recounting what happened today. You know, Liam helped me out big time again today. She set down her bag, her eyes sparkling with excitement. We were discussing the new app interface design and couldn't find a breakthrough. Then Liam proposed a particularly novel idea that was absolutely eye-opening. I sat on the sofa, ostensibly watching TV, but in reality, all my attention was focused on her. He also said that the idea came to him while he was working on a school project. It's really hard to imagine that a kid who hasn't even graduated could have such a keen business sense. Sophia slipped off her high heels and stood barefoot on the carpet. David and the others said Liam is practically a talent tailor-made for our company. My heart sank even deeper. What else did they say? Haha, it was pretty funny. Sophia came over and naturally leaned on my shoulder. David joked that Liam was obviously after me. He even said young people are bold. He dared to pursue me, Mrs. Johnson. My body stiffened instantly. So how did you answer? I told him not to gossip. Sophia laughed and poked my cheek with her finger. Liam is just a kid, almost 10 years younger than us. And he's so outstanding. He'll definitely have plenty of pretty girls liking him in the future. Her tone was easy, but I heard something in it I'd never heard before. It was a slight vanity that comes from being admired by the young, a satisfaction from being recognized by someone excellent. Sophia. I turned my head to look at her. She blinked at me, her eyes still carrying the light from when she had just been talking about Liam. We've been married for so long now. Don't you think life has become a bit bland? I asked cautiously. Sophia was momentarily taken aback, then reached out and touched my forehead. Ethan, what's wrong with you today? You've been asking all these strange questions. I just wanted to know what you think. She was silent for a moment, then said seriously, Ethan, after all these years of marriage, we really don't have that passionate feeling we had when we were first in love. But I think that's normal. Love naturally transforms into other things. My heart sank suddenly. Other things. Familial affection, tacit understanding, and a shared plan for the future. Her hand lightly brushed my cheek. Ethan, have you been under a lot of pressure at work lately? Why are you always overthinking? I didn't answer because I didn't know what to say. What she said sounded to me like laying the groundwork for future betrayal. If love turns into familial affection, is it still love? For the next week, I was like someone possessed, constantly probing through various channels to find out how Liam was doing at the company. Every piece of news deepened my fear. Liam would stay behind to help when Sophia was working late, would conveniently appear with a cup of hot tea when she was tired, would offer the perfect solution when she encountered technical problems. Everything matched the plot from that nightmare exactly. What frightened me most was the change in Sophia after she came home. She began to mention Liam frequently, her eyes always flashing with a light I hadn't seen in a long time. It was the delight of being admired, the satisfaction of rediscovering one's own charm. She was still the gentle, considerate Sophia. She would still make me breakfast, give me a massage when I was exhausted, and give me a good night kiss before bed. But I could sense that something was quietly changing. For example, she started to pay more attention to her appearance. She used to wear loose loungewear at home, but now, even at home, she dressed appropriately. She began looking in the mirror more often and would carefully touch up her makeup before going out. She would casually bring up things from her youth and lament the passage of time. These changes were subtle. If I hadn't been watching constantly, I might not have noticed them at all. But for someone whose heart was already seized by fear, every tiny change felt like confirmation of the nightmare's reality. The scariest thing was that I found myself acting according to the script from my dream. I became silent, became hypersensitive, became paranoid. Whenever Sophia mentioned Liam, I couldn't help saying something snide. Whenever she came home late, I couldn't stop myself from suspecting she was with Liam. I had become that obnoxious male lead from the dream. But Sophia's reactions were still different from the dream. Faced with my abnormal behavior, she didn't get angry or give me the cold shoulder. She treated me even more gently. She would hug me first when I was silent, patiently comfort me when I showed anxiety, and diffuse awkwardness with playful sweetness when I made snide remarks. She was doing her best to preserve our relationship in her own way, but I couldn't shake the fear inside me. Because I was afraid it was only the calm before the storm. At night, I sat on the edge of the bed watching Sophia remove her makeup in the bathroom. She still looked beautiful in the mirror. Even at this age, time had only given her a touch more mature charm. But I felt like I was going crazy. These past few days I've been torn over whether to lay everything out to Sophia, to tell her the fears in my heart, to tell her about that ridiculous dream, to tell her about my worries concerning Liam. I was even prepared to demand, in an almost unreasonable way, that she fire Liam. The idea made me laugh at myself. For what reason? Just because I had a nightmare? Wouldn't that only disappoint her? But reason had already been shattered by fear. Every time I saw the light in Sophia's eyes when she mentioned Liam, every time I heard her unintentionally praise him, I felt that nightmare inching closer to becoming reality. Sophia came out of the bathroom wearing silk pajamas, her hair still a little damp. She naturally slipped under the covers and leaned against my chest. "Ethan, why have you been having insomnia lately?" She raised her head, concern filling her beautiful eyes. This was my chance. I took a deep breath, ready to say the words I'd been holding in for so long. Ready to tell her that I didn't want her getting too close to Liam, that the young man's intentions weren't pure. Even if she thought I was being unreasonable, got angry, or didn't understand, I had to say it. "Sophia, there are some things I need to tell you." Midway through his sentence, Sophia's phone suddenly lit up. "Who will be sending a message at this hour, past 11 at night?" Sophia picked up her phone and glanced at it. I happened to catch the sender's name, Liam. My heart sank to the bottom in an instant. Here it comes, finally. This was the turning point from the nightmare. A late-night, confident confession. I didn't even need to read the content to know what that message said. It would be nothing more than sentimental lines about family misfortune, some melodramatic worries about an uncertain future, and things like, "Only with Sophia do I feel warmth." It's the classic pattern. Play the victim to win sympathy, then build an exclusive emotional bond. In the dream, after Sophia saw that message, maternal feelings immediately overflowed. She would secretly get up after I fell asleep and, under the pretense of comforting a child, meet Liam late at night. She opened the message, and sure enough her brows furrowed slightly. That look, was it sympathy? Was it pity? My heart felt like it was being sliced back and forth with a blunt knife, aching so much I could barely breathe. As expected, everything was unfolding just like in a dream. She was beginning to feel sorry for that pitiful young man. I swallowed everything I had prepared. What was there left to say? The plot had already begun to follow the trajectory of a nightmare. I felt a deep exhaustion, not from staying up late, but from despair. I loved Sophia, and it was precisely because I loved her that the thought of losing her hurt so much. But the expression she wore while looking at Liam's messages made me feel like a clown. A fool kept in the dark who had to pretend not to know anything. After reading the message, Sophia didn't reply immediately. She set her phone aside, turned to me, and hugged me. "Sleep. You have to work tomorrow," she said, her voice light and soft, but I detected a deliberate, concealed distraction in it. Her embrace was still warm, but I felt a distance. In the dream, she said the same thing. Then, after I fell asleep, she secretly put on her coat and went out. I closed my eyes, pretending to be asleep, but actually waiting for her to get up and leave, waiting for the nightmare to truly begin. Time passed second by second. Sophia's breathing gradually became even and steady, as if she were really asleep. I quietly opened my eyes a crack. She lay beside me peacefully, her sleeping face calm and beautiful, her hand still reflexively resting on my chest. There was no sign that she was about to get up. I froze. Something was wrong. In the dream, she should have already left by now. The plot had deviated again. I kept pretending to be asleep until I was sure Sophia had actually fallen asleep. She didn't move all night. The next morning, Sophia got up to get ready for work as usual. I pretended to still be asleep, but in truth, I was watching her every move. After she finished freshening up, she picked up her phone and seemed to be replying to something. My heart tightened again. When she went to the kitchen to make breakfast, I quickly grabbed her phone. The message Liam sent last night was long, just as I expected. "Sophia, sorry to bother you so late. I just spoke with my family, and I'm feeling a bit down. Wanted someone to talk to. You know, my parents divorced when I was little, and I was raised by my grandmother. She passed away the year before last, and now I really feel very lonely. Coming to this unfamiliar city, if it weren't for meeting a kind leader like you, I wouldn't know what to do. Sometimes I feel like only with you can I feel a trace of warmth and care. Thank you for taking care of me all this time. I know I'm just an intern and shouldn't take up your time, but I really have no one else to confide in. After reading that message, I was truly disgusted. Only with you can I feel warmth, no one else to confide in. As if Sophia were something to him. I trembled as I tapped open Sophia's reply. Work well, young man. Don't overthink things. If you don't rest properly, it will affect your work. Just that one sentence. Short, polite, but full of distance. No consolation, no concern, and not a hint of maternal indulgence. This is completely unlike the dream. In the nightmare, when Liam played the victim, Sophia would send long, comforting messages, express sympathy for his situation, and promise he could always talk to her. But the real reply was as cold as if she were dealing with an ordinary subordinate. I read the message over and over to make sure I hadn't misread it. A complex mix of emotions rose in me. Relief, confusion, and a sliver of incredulous hope. Maybe that nightmare really was just a dream? Maybe my Sophia wouldn't be fooled by Liam's tricks? Ethan, breakfast's ready. Sophia's voice from the kitchen snapped me out of my thoughts. I quickly put my phone back and got up to wash up. At the dining table, Sophia served me porridge and thoughtfully sprinkled some pepper on the fried egg, the way I like it. How did you sleep last night? She asked while eating breakfast. Not bad. I asked tentatively. Your phone rang last night. Was it about work? Sophia paused for a moment, then shook her head. Liam sent a message about some family matters. Her tone was calm, without much emotional fluctuation. Did he run into some trouble? I continued to probe. Not exactly trouble, just that young people tend to be sentimental, Sophia said, sipping her porridge. Maybe he's too far from home and feeling a bit homesick. When she said this, her tone was as flat as if she were discussing the weather. There was none of the overflowing maternal sympathy for my dream. A big weight in my heart suddenly lifted a little. How did you reply to him? Let him focus on his work, don't overthink it. Sophia glanced at me. Ethan, why are you so concerned about our company's affairs? I felt a bit embarrassed. Just asking. Sophia reached out and touched my forehead. You've been really strange lately, always asking these inexplicable questions. What on earth are you thinking? Seeing the concern in her eyes, I felt the fear in my heart gradually dissipate. Maybe I really was overthinking. Sophia was right in front of me, completely different from the person in my dream. She was the Sophia I would fall in love with. I smiled and reached out to hold her hand. I'm not worried about him. I'm worried about you. I just think young people today are complicated, especially those who just enter the workforce. They'll use any means to climb up. You're too naive. I'm afraid you'll be deceived. Sophia froze, then chuckled. Ethan, what are you thinking? I've run the company for so many years. I won't be fooled by some young guy. But since you don't like him, I'll just fire him. Honestly, what do you think about all day? Something so small keeps you up at night? Show a bit more of CEO's air, will you? Her brows and eyes curved, not angry at all. Instead, her pupils were full of a tenderness and indulgence reserved for me, as if we were still in the throes of young love, and my heart gave a sharp jolt. I hurriedly lowered my head and focused on eating. Even after all these years, she could still easily make my heart sway. The fear in my chest slowly dissipated. Looking at Sophia's gentle smile and hearing her casually say she'd fire Liam, I suddenly felt how ridiculous my worries these past few days had been. My Sophia, she was never the kind of woman to be easily led astray. She had her own judgment, a steadfastness about love, and a deep appreciation for our relationship. You don't need to fire him. I squeezed her hand. I trust you. Sophia blinked, a flicker of surprise crossing her eyes before turning into a relieved smile. That's the Ethan I know. She leaned over and pressed a light kiss to my cheek. I thought you were going to keep being so paranoid. I lowered my head, a little embarrassed, ashamed of how strangely I'd been acting these past few days. However, the next night, when Sophia came home, there was an indescribable look on her face. She sank into the sofa and was silent for a long time. So long that I almost thought she wouldn't speak again. Ethan, She finally spoke, her voice a little dry. "I fired Liam today." My heart sank sharply, as if gripped by an invisible hand. "Why? What happened?" Sophia looked up, a complicated expression on her face as she looked at me. "He came to me today to confess." Of course. The last piece of doubt in my heart fell away. Liam had, after all, shown his true colors. What did he say? I heard my own voice, carrying an uncontrollable tremor. Sophia took a deep breath, her expression complex as she recalled the scene. He said he loved me, that the first time he saw me, he was captivated by my intelligence and beauty, that being with me made him feel a passion he had never felt before. My fist clenched at my side instinctively, the knuckles whitening from a force. And then he also said, Sophia paused, as if imitating Liam's tone. "Sophia, I know this is wrong, but I just can't help wanting to care for you, to protect you. I don't mean to ruin your family. I just want you to feel more at ease and a little happier outside the home." Ha! Speaking of which, Sophia, who had been forcing herself to look serious, suddenly couldn't hold it in any longer. She hugged a cushion on the sofa and laughed so hard she rocked back and forth like a little girl pleased with a prank, a charming flush appearing on her fair cheeks. "You have no idea how awkward it is to be confessed to by a guy 7 or 8 years younger than you, with those melodramatic primetime lines. I felt like my toes were so embarrassed they could have been picked to furnish a 3-bedroom apartment." Her laughter was clear and pleasant, like a gust of wind that instantly blew away the long-standing gloom in my heart. I couldn't help laughing too. I plopped down beside her and drew her soft, delicate body into my arms. Doesn't that just prove my wife's irresistible charm? As the laughter died down, Sophia suddenly grew quiet in my arms. She lifted her head, her expression becoming incredibly serious, as if she'd made up her mind about something. She reached out, cupped my face with both hands, and spoke each word gently and clearly. "Honey, I'm sorry. I admit, when he first appeared, I did, for a moment, feel something. Because at first he behaved so much like the younger you, sunny, motivated, with a touch of foolishness. Otherwise, with the crude and obvious tactics he used, I wouldn't have only seen through him completely when he sent that message. But in any case, I did develop a liking for him. I'm sorry. I felt I had to be honest with you about that." When she finished speaking, her body trembled slightly, as if afraid of my reaction. "But I know very clearly that wasn't love," Sophia continued, "because I know where our home is, where my heart is." Suddenly, I felt how ridiculous my fear was. I was afraid of losing Sophia, yet I didn't believe in her love for me. I believed an absurd dream, but I didn't believe in the deep feelings we had built over 8 years. "Sophia, I had a very strange nightmare recently. I finally decided to reveal the secret in my heart. I dreamed you betrayed me. I dreamed you were with Liam. I told, in fits and starts, the nightmare that had haunted me for so long, recounting every detail of the dream and the torment and pain I'd endured these past days." Sophia listened quietly, tears gradually filling her eyes. "Ethan," she said chokingly, "I'm sorry, I didn't notice your pain." She hugged me tightly, as if trying to melt me into her body. "I didn't know you were carrying so much. I didn't know that every move I made deepened your fear." I held her, feeling the warmth of her body, and the gloom in my heart finally dissipated completely. "No, I was too sensitive," I whispered in her ear. "I didn't trust you enough, didn't trust our relationship enough." Sophia's eyes were full of tears, yet she broke into a smile more radiant than ever. "Ethan, remember this," she said with a heavy sniffle, but an indisputable tone. "The one I love is you. The one I choose is you. The one I want to grow old with can only be you. No one can take you away." I could no longer restrain myself. I lowered my head and kissed her fiercely. That nightmare was finally over, and our love continued on. After a long while, our lips parted. "Who told me to fall into the hands of a big dummy like you so early?" Sophia broke into relieved laughter, stroking my back, her voice full of indulgent resignation. I took a deep breath. The air mixed with the scent of her hair was like a warm current that instantly filled all the unease and hollowness in my chest. Sophia. I raised my hand and gently brushed the wetness from the corner of her eye with my fingertip, feeling the delicacy and warmth of her skin. Thank you for being willing to tell me all of this. I looked in her eyes and said seriously, but you really don't need to feel even the slightest bit guilty about this. She blinked those misty eyes, seemingly completely unprepared for my reaction. I smiled and decided to give her a belated honesty in return. Actually, there's something I want to tell you too. There was a hint of puzzlement in Sophia's eyes as she looked at me quietly. I took her slightly cool hand and felt my ears warming. Last year, I went on a business trip to the South and attended a party, and there, I met a girl. I could feel Sophia's fingers stiffen slightly. I didn't shy away. I looked straight into her eyes and laid everything out. She was wearing a white dress, her hair tied in a high ponytail, and when she smiled, her eyes curved and two shallow dimples appeared. Just like you when you were 18, the first time I saw you in the library. To be honest, I said plainly, in that moment my heart did skip a beat. That feeling was like time rewinding, suddenly reminding me of the first flutter of falling for you. Sophia said nothing, just looked at me quietly. But that was only a momentary lapse. I tightened my grip on her hand, using my body warmth to warm her. She isn't you. She just looked like you when you were young, like the you I fell headlong in love with. I looked into Sophia's eyes and, word by word, told her with absolute clarity. I may have fallen in love with the vitality you had at 18, but what I've loved has never been only that 18-year-old Sophia. I love every stage of you, from 18 to now. I love the college Sophia who would argue with me until her face flushed over a math problem. I love the new employee Sophia who, when wronged, only dared to hide in my arms and quietly sniffle. I also love the entrepreneur Sophia who fought fearlessly in the marketplace for our little home. Even more, I love the woman you are now, mature and wise, yet still able to be coquettish with me. My wife, Sophia. None of us are perfect. We all have moments of confusion and wavering. But it is this imperfect honesty that makes our love truer and stronger. Ethan. Sophia suddenly spoke, her voice trembling with solemnity. From now on, let's be more honest with each other, okay? No matter what happens, happy or unhappy, tell each other immediately. No hiding things. Okay. I nodded hard. That was our agreement. Also, she changed tone, winked mischievously, and a sly smile bloomed on her tear-streaked face. If any little girl in a white dress flirts with you from now on, you must report to me right away. She drew close and lowered her voice, but spoke sternly, so I can pinch off those awful suitors for you. Her cuteness made me laugh out loud. Fine. But what if a handsome, rich young guy confesses to you? Then I will. She lifted her chin proudly like a vain little peacock. Refuse him in front of everyone right away, then go home and tell you, so you clearly understand how sought after your wife is. To keep you feeling threatened every day. We held each other like that, laughing and teasing, and the gloom in our hearts completely dispersed. The night outside the window was deep, but inside the room we felt brighter than ever. That night, after Sophia had fallen soundly asleep, resting her head on my arm, I quietly got up and opened the study computer. The screen's faint glow lit my face. I looked at the document I had created to record the so-called plot, those cold words that had once been like a spell, binding me and nearly destroying the most precious things I had. I am not the puppet male lead of any story. I am just Ethan, Sophia's husband. And my wife Sophia is not the heroine of some melodramatic betrayal novel. She is simply my beloved, the treasure I am willing to guard for a lifetime. I moved the mouse over that file, and without any hesitation, I pressed the permanently delete button. Outside the window, the city was a sea of lights, warm and real. And in this cozy little home, We possessed the most precious thing in the world, each other's sincere love. It wasn't the love from a novel, nor the love from a movie, nor the love from any fictional tale. It was the love belonging to Ethan and Sophia. Unique, unbreakable. Sophia's perspective. When I first saw Liam, I admit I was stunned. That clean yet slightly stubborn, youthful energy about him felt like a breeze from years ago, instantly blowing me back to my university days. So similar. Like Ethan. The one in the library who would argue with me until we were red in the face over a question, yet would secretly save me a seat in the end. Because of that damned resemblance, I couldn't help but pay him a little extra attention. I even found myself unconsciously bringing him up in conversations with Ethan, praising his ambition and vitality. I was lost in that nostalgic filter, like a fool, completely ignoring the feelings of the big wooden man at home. Until that night, when I received that text message. Its manipulative design was so obvious that it snapped me out of my self-deceiving illusion. Only then did I realize how blatant those calculated cares were, those just so appearances, those vague hints. The man who bore the shadow of my lover in his youth was hiding such nauseating scheming deep inside. Once sober, guilt and fear came crashing over me. In an instant, everything made sense. Why Ethan had looked perpetually sleep-deprived and burdened lately. It wasn't work stress at all. It was my fault. Years of marriage. He had probably long noticed my strangeness, noticed the presence of that tempter, while I remained oblivious and kept hurting him with my dullness. I stared at that sickening text on my phone screen, my heart pricked by 1,000 tiny needles, aching in waves. Not for that clownish Liam. For my foolish husband, whose heart I'd broken, yet who still pretended to be strong. I hate that scheming intern, but I hate myself more. An intern could never really hurt Ethan. The only person who can ever make him sad has always been me. Putting down my phone, I could only hold my foolish husband tightly with a hurting heart, not knowing what to say. I kept everything bottled up and could only mutter a few dry words telling him to get some rest. The next morning, when Ethan asked about Liam again, I immediately took the opportunity to bring up firing him. But that big dummy Ethan, his first reaction when he heard that was to rush to apologize to me, saying he believed me and that it was his fault. Really, so foolish. I, who enjoyed the malicious pursuit of others and self-deceptively used a filter to prettify the other's flaws, am utterly undeserving of his unconditional trust. Even though Ethan said that, Liam, I'm still set on resigning him. I'm no 18-year-old girl anymore. I can tell the difference between sincerity and acting. Besides, I have Ethan. This ridiculous farce needs to end. When Liam walked into my office wearing that expression he fancied as heartfelt, I knew I didn't even need to come up with an extra reason to fire him. Sophia, I have something I want to tell you. Liam closed the office door and his tone became unusually serious. I put down the file in my hand, leaned back in my chair, and watched him at leisure. Speak. He took a deep breath and began his carefully prepared declaration. Sophia, I know this may sound abrupt, but I love you. His voice trembled, and his eyes were full of sincere emotion. From the first day I met you, I was deeply attracted to your intelligence and beauty. Working with you these past few days has only made me more certain that you are the person I've been looking for. I listened without expression, but inwardly I shook my head. Those hollow lines were far worse than the clumsy love letter I once wrote when chasing after the wooden-headed guy in my family. I had no idea where he got his confidence. Sophia, I know you have a family, but I can also see that you are not happy. He continued, his voice carrying a concerned tone of, I'm thinking of you. Sophia, I know this is wrong, but I just can't help paying attention to you. I only want to make you a little happier, that's all. I don't intend to destroy your family. I just want to give you a shoulder to lean on when you need it. His eyes were full of pain and struggle, as if he were the great protagonist sacrificing himself for love. Are you finished? If you're done, go write your own resignation letter. I didn't wait for him to continue his performance. I cut him off coldly. The expression on Liam's face froze instantly. I admired the face that bore a few resemblances to my husband's youth. But regrettably, that face was full of calculation, nowhere near as clean and open as my husband's. Liam, my voice was so calm it showed no ripple. Thank you for your admiration. I have to admit, you acted very well. If I were still a girl in my early 20s, naive about the world, I might truly have been fooled by your tender, heartfelt performance. A faint, barely perceptible panic flickered across Liam's face. But unfortunately, I smiled slightly, a smile that didn't reach my eyes. I already have a lover who can give me peace for a lifetime. I can see his sincerity in you. I stared into his eyes and spoke each word. I cannot see through you. Your performance is too perfect, so perfect that it feels false. Liam wanted to argue, but I raised my hand to stop him. Besides, even if you're sincere, so what? I already have one sincere heart and don't need a second to add more trouble. I stood up and picked up the internal phone. HR, please process Liam's resignation. Settle his salary and compensation according to the rules. Liam's face instantly went pale. Sophia, you... Liam, I turned to look at him. You're excellent, and I believe you can find a job that's more suitable. But you've crossed the line with me. He wanted to say more, but seeing the resolute look in my eyes, he ultimately said nothing and turned to leave the office. Watching his departing back, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. This absurd farce was finally over.